Hi everyone, this is Miss Brubeck. We are going to be learning how to add and subtract polynomial expressions during this video, but first I want to go over some vocabulary that we learned in September, but this vocabulary is really important for our current lesson and our current unit. So the first vocabulary word we're going to go over is term. And a term is a number or a variable in an expression. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And again, this is going to be a review for a lot of you. Let's say we have 4x squared plus 2x. Those are both going to be terms. So here we have two terms. The 4x squared is a term and the 2x is a term. They are both terms. So this expression would have two terms. Right. The next word I want to go over is like terms. And we talked about this a lot during September when we were learning how to combine like terms. So like terms are terms that have the same variable and the same exponent. So they have the same variable and the same exponent. So like terms are terms that have the same variable and the same exponent, and you can add them. So like if I had, let's just say I had 4x and I also had 3x, they have the same variable. They would also have the same exponent. There, you can't see it, but there's an invisible 1 exponent here. So we could add those and we would get 7x. So those are like terms. When they have the same variable and the same exponent, you can add or subtract them. You can combine them. A constant is a number on its own. So it's a number that's on its own with no variable or exponent. Or with no variable, it could have an exponent. So like a constant, if we had 3x plus 4, the 4 would be the constant. So the 4 would be the constant because it's hanging out by itself. No variable with it. And then the coefficient is the number in front of a variable. So the coefficient is the number in front of a variable. So let's say you had 3x minus 2x. The coefficient would be the 3 and that -2. That would be the coefficient. Those are just review definitions that we're going to need. So if you need more time to get this copied down, go ahead and pause the video because I am moving on to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about polynomials, and that's what this unit is about. And today we're going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. So a polynomial, it comes from the word poly. Let me make this bigger. Which means many. And nomial, which means term. So it means many terms. So it comes from the word poly, which means many, and nomial, which means term. So it means many terms. So like an example could be 4x squared plus 3x minus 5. This would be a polynomial with 3 terms. It is a polynomial and it has 3 terms. It has many terms. A polynomial with one term is what we call a monomial. So a polynomial with one term is what we call a monomial, and it might look like 3x, I'll add another variable. It could just have one variable, but that's a monomial. It's just one term. So 3xy squared, one term. A binomial is a polynomial with two terms. So maybe it could look like 5x minus 1 could be a binomial. And then a trinomial is a polynomial with three terms. It's a polynomial with three terms, so it could be like the first one, or the 3x minus 5y plus 3. Like that could be a trinomial because it has three terms. Okay. If you need more time on this, please pause the video because I am going to go to the next slide. Okay, so here we're going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. Now, adding is pretty simple. We have f of x equals 9 minus 3x and g of x equals 5x minus 7. These are both binomials because they have two terms. And when we're adding them, it's pretty simple. You just have 9 minus 3x plus 5x minus 7. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then we're just going to combine our like terms. So we can combine the negative 3 and a positive 5. Okay, negative 3x plus 5x would be 2x. Okay, negative 3x plus 5x would be 2x. And then if we combine the 9 and a negative 7, you have to include the sign that's in front of it. So if we included that 9 minus 7, we'd have 2. And so our answer here would just simply be 2x plus 2. And that would be the final answer. 2x plus 2. For the next one, subtraction's a little bit different. So we're going to have the 9x minus 3x. But this time you're going to put a subtraction sign and then a parenthesis, because what you're doing is you're subtracting the entire thing. You're not just subtracting the 5x. You're not just subtracting the negative 7. You're subtracting everything. So we're going to need a minus sign and then a parenthesis. And what we're really doing here is we're going to be distributing that negative to both the 5x and the negative 7. So what I like to do is I like to put a 1 in front of it, and then you're using the distributive property. You're taking that negative 1 times your 5x and your negative 1 times your negative 7. So the 9x and the negative 3x will stay the same. But negative 1 times a positive 5x is a negative 5x. And then negative 1 times a negative 7 is a positive 7. And so you just have to make sure that you distribute that negative to both the 5x and the negative 7. Once you do that, then you are ready to combine like terms. Oops, I made a mistake here. Not sure if you noticed. That 9 should not have an x. That 9 should not have an x because as you see here, it's just 9 minus 3x. So no x there. All right, so now we can combine like terms. We can do negative 3x minus 5x and negative 3x minus 5x is going to equal negative 8x. And then we can also combine the 9 and the 7. And 9 plus 7 is going to get us 16. So our final answer is going to be negative 8x plus 16. If you need more time on this slide, go ahead and pause it because I am moving on to the next one. All right, so here we've got 3x squared minus 5x and negative 4x plus 7. We again have two binomials, and we're going to add them together and then subtract them. So I'm going to try to write it out this time. So we're going to have 3x squared minus 5x, and then we're going to be adding that to a negative 4x and a positive 7. So when you're adding, you can just write it out and then immediately start combining like terms. The 3x squared, there's no terms that the 3x squared can be combined with because there's no other term that has a variable of x and an exponent of 2. So 3x squared is by itself. It can't be combined with anything, but we can combine the negative 5x and the negative 4x because they both have the variable of x and an invisible exponent of 1. So negative 5x plus negative 4x is going to get us negative 9x. And then again, that's 7. It's the only constant, so it is going to be by itself. It cannot be combined with anything. And that is our final answer right there. So adding functions pretty simple. It's the negatives that seem to get people when we're doing subtraction. It's the subtraction that seems to be harder. So now it says f of x minus g of x. So we're going to still have the 3x squared minus the 5x. But this time, you're going to have a minus sign because a subtraction sign. We're going to have a subtraction sign. So we're going to have a subtraction sign and then a parenthesis in which we're going to put our negative 4x inside and our positive 7 inside. And then our parenthesis. So we'll want to add there's an invisible 1 here. And let me see if I can make that a little easier to read. An invisible 1 here. And we're going to distribute that to the negative 4x and to the positive 7. So we're still going to have our 3x squared. That's still going to be right there. We're still going to have our minus 5x. But this time we need to do negative 1 times negative 4x, which is going to be a positive 4x. And then we have to do negative 1 times our positive 7, which is going to be a negative 7. And now we can once again combine like terms. Now, again, the only terms that are going to be able to be combined are this negative 5x and this positive 4x. Those are the only ones that we will be able to combine. So we'll just have the 3x squared again by itself. Negative 5x plus 4x is going to be negative 1x. You could also just write it as negative x. That would also be fine. And then the negative 7 is at the end. And that is our final answer. All right. If you need more time, pause the video. But that is the end. Make sure you have this written on your Jamboard, and then make sure you push the turn in button on Google Classroom. Thanks for watching.